Hi guys, I think it's time that we go out to the shop and we talk. We are going to have a little shop talk. Hey guys, welcome to Shop Talk. What Shop Talk is where we kind of take apart the scriptures, see how they were made, who they were talking to, why they were saying it, and see how that applies to us today. I really think that it's the way I operate in my shop. I don't know how to fix something until I know its intended use. I don't know how things work unless I take them apart. So that's what we're doing with Shop Talk. And, you know, Dixie's making me a great looking pour over here. I love sitting down with a cup of coffee and reading the scriptures. I love seeing what the Lord wants to reveal to me, and I think it's just such a blessing. So let's get ready for some Shop Talk. Hey guys, Pastor Rich here. Time for another Shop Talk. I'm kind of, I think you'll like today's because it's God telling us how to take a day off. So I don't know if you get to take a day off or if you know how to take a day off. But we're going to see what God says about taking a day off. I'm going to be in Luke chapter 6, and I'm going to read this story about where Jesus was teaching the religious leaders of a time a lesson, which is always so amazing because those lessons apply to us now. But guys, I hope you're enjoying this as much as I am. Hit that subscribe button and hit the like button if you liked it. And, you know, if you got a question or a comment, please don't hesitate to send a comment below. Guys, okay, we're in Luke chapter 6. Now remember, Luke is one of the disciples. We're going to take this apart so we can see kind of how it works, not just take it for its surface value. But Luke chapter 6, we're going to start in verse 6. This is again, where Jesus is correcting the human race on what God meant by the Sabbath. You know, he had established this, and it did kind of slide, but we'll get into that a little bit more. All right, Luke 6, chapter 6. On another Sabbath, he entered the synagogue and was teaching, and a man was there whose right hand was withered. Okay. Sabbath, we'll talk a little bit more about that, but I want you guys to notice, he entered a synagogue, and he was teaching. Jesus was a teacher. Jesus knew the Bible, the Torah, the Bible that they had like nobody else, because Jesus is God, right? So Jesus has the attention of people. He has the respect of people. He has proven himself to be a man that represents God well, but knows his stuff too. Okay. Comes across a guy that has a hand that's withered. And the scribes and the Pharisees. Scribes are people that dictated all this stuff, and the Pharisees, such wise people. So you got kind of the religious elite, the highly educated of the day, the ones that drove up in their Mercedes to the synagogue and walked in, and people respected them, probably dressed really great. I'm not saying that Jesus was a slob, and Jesus wore the Jewish traditional clothes, but these guys were the wealthy in the place. And Jesus, he was just going from place to place. So, got this in your head? You got, let's call them the hoity-toits, all right? Hoity-toits, and if your name happens to be Toit or Hoity or Hoity-toit, has nothing to do with you. I mean no harm, but it's just a term from probably Missouri. I don't know. Whether the Pharisees watched him to see whether he would heal on the Sabbath. Makes you wonder, they knew the guy with the withered hand would be there. They probably knew Jesus was going to be there. So kind of get yourself into this situation. It wasn't just a, happenstance, especially on Jesus' part. But, so you got these guys, they're kind of setting this up because this is not the first time. And if you look, my Bible tells me to go back and look at Matthew, first one of the Gospels, first book of the New Testament, chapter 12. And there's a story in there, starting at 12:1, where Jesus was walking with his disciples on a Sunday or Sabbath, and they ate some grain because they were hungry. They pulled it off the side of the road. So, and he corrected them then. So these guys were probably a little bit like, they heard about this, they knew that Jesus had this stance, but they're gonna see if they can trap him. We can't let the people start listening to this guy because he's not as cool as we are. And he takes some attention off of us. So, alright, that had already happened. Come back to our story. But he knew their thoughts. Jesus knew what they were thinking. You know, Jesus knows everything, and he knows our thoughts, he knows our actions. But I think he just knew what they were thinking anyway. You ever had people that were kind of, ornery, and you knew that they were up to some shenanigans or up to something? You kind of knew what they were thinking. I know that Jesus knows what they were thinking, but I also knew it was no surprise to him. And he said to the man with the withered hand, "Come and stand here. Come on up front so everybody can see," okay? And he rose and stood there. Jesus stood next to him. He didn't take him in the back room. He didn't try to hide this. He was using this as a teaching moment, and he was healing a guy. So read this, catch this. And Jesus said to them, not to the guy, but to the scribes and the Pharisees, "I ask you, is it lawful on the Sabbath to do good or to do harm, to save life or destroy it?" There's a very similar answer to the way he answered the Pharisees back in Matthew chapter 12. Now, they were trying to catch him then, or they were just offended then. So now they're trying to catch him, like, see if he changes or if he'll do it again. He did it again, and he didn't change his story. So let's take that for what it really is. Jesus never changes. He never changes his story, guys. All right. And after looking around at them, all he said to him, the guy with the withered hand, "Stretch out your hand." And he did so, and his hand was restored. But they were filled with fury and disgusted with one another what they might do to Jesus. They still weren't giving up. They didn't click in. They didn't catch his truth. They didn't accept his truth. So that's the story of Jesus pushing back on the Pharisees. But the reason he was pushing back was the Pharisees were living off the law of Moses. And then plus they were really legalistic. Let's say pushing it. Now, this law of Moses was to the Jewish people, but God's intent was not just for the Jewish people to have a Sabbath. So you don't have to be Jewish to have a day off where you can reflect on the Lord. I'm going to take you clear back to Genesis, and again, my Bible helped me do that. We're going to Genesis chapter 2. God had just restored, created everything on the earth here, okay? And he had made man and woman. All right, so this is after that. God did all of that. Chapter 2, verse 3. So God blessed the seventh day and made it holy, because on it God rested from all his work he had done in creation. He created all these things. Does God need a nap? No. Does God need to restore his energy? No. He's sovereign. He has all the power. All the power. You can't get any more than all the power. So God has all the power. He didn't need a rest, but he called the seventh day holy. And he rested. He enjoyed his creation. So Moses comes along and he's explaining it to the Jewish people, and like, hey, you can't do any work on the Sabbath. I'm telling you guys, we'll make it unlawful for you to do anything on the Sabbath. In fact, the synagogues where Jesus was teaching, they had to be at such a distance apart that was the predetermined legal distance you could walk on the Sabbath. I mean, these guys had it down. You can't carry anything. You can't, like back there in Matthew 12, where his disciples grabbed some heads of wheat and they ate the grains. Well, that was too close to harvesting. So that's why it was against their law to do that. But Jesus is like, wait a minute, guys. Who made the law? Let's look at what the intent of the law was, and let's work toward that. So what Jesus is confirming and what we can take away is that God calls us to take a rest day a week. All right? Now, what you do on your rest day, it can be different for everybody. But two things that are most important: resting and connecting with God. He intended it to be a day where you would connect with Him, where you would spend some time with God. And that might be sitting in a hammock next to a lake and looking out and seeing a crane and just being amazed at God's creation, okay? Or it might be digging into your Word, digging into the Word. So like, God, show me something new about you. Show me something that I haven't really caught before. Show me something that makes sense, that I can get down to the bedrock where it doesn't change. He will. So, guys, whether you do it on Friday, whether you do it on Saturday, whether you do it on Sunday, our culture, people work every day of the week. Stores are open, some stores are open 24 hours a day. Somebody's always working. Hospitals. You can't kick it legalistic. So it may be that you get off work on Wednesday at 4 o'clock and you don't have to be to work until Friday at 4 o'clock. That means Thursday's your Sabbath. Take some time, rest, connect with God, but it doesn't have to be so legalistic that you can't do anything but sit on your couch and order out pizza. God didn't say you can't even cook, but He said rest. If you enjoy cooking, cook on your Sabbath. If you don't enjoy cooking, order a pizza. Just do what's right for you. Don't use it as a mistake, or not a mistake, but actually don't use it as an excuse to make a mistake by missing out on things and not doing things. If somebody has a ball game and you want to go to the ball game, go to the ball game. We do in America, though, need to take time for the rest and to connect with God. I know I was wired this way. I had to keep myself busy. Right now, at all moments, I have things in my head. The next thing I'm going to do, the next thing I want to work on, the next thing I want to enjoy, the next thing. And that can be heavy. So God may call you to spend some time with Him in that hammock, overlooking the lake, with the breeze going. You might fall asleep. But better rest is there to take a nap with God. Guys, I want you this week to look at your Sabbath. Are you being legalistic? Does it have to be at a certain time and a certain day? Are you resting? Are you taking time to let your body and your mind just kind of have a break, rejuvenate? And they say you're more effective at your job if you actually take a day off. I think that's because we're just recognizing how God created things, right? And are you allowing God into your Sabbath? What better day to thank Him for the things you have? What better day to ask Him for the things you struggle with? What better day to trust in Him, to know that He's going to move? So this week, check out your Sabbath, evaluate it, see if you have the right heart going into it. And I will guarantee that if you go into your Sabbath with a heart that praises God and is thankful to God, and you allow yourself time to rest, you don't program yourself out of daylight, that you will feel better. The drama, the stress, the tension will ebb a little bit. And you may just get into a rhythm of life where you allow yourself a couple hours a day to rest, relax, connect with God, and be fruitful in all you do, and because He's touching it. So guys, I love you. I love the God we serve. I can't wait to see how our worlds get better as we allow our lives to be touched by God. So you take care now. Bye.